Terra has spent her whole life following her intuition and being guided by something greater than something greater. She is one of the most tapped in, aware, gifted healers I've ever met. And she draws on a lifetime of wisdom and experience and challenges and insights and guidance that contributes to a deeply healing space.
We are all going to die. Our bodies, we will leave our bodies, we will find safe passage. And coming into terms with that, in a beautiful relationship with that, is, I think, one of the highest paths and one of the highest forms of personal work that we can do. Because it allows us to live more fully in the moment. It helps us be vulnerable with ourselves and others. And it also can help us find permission or give ourselves permission to live a higher quality of life, or to be more experimental and experiential with how we walk through the day. It's been my guiding light, was my name. But yeah, Terra, meaning earth. My middle name is Dyer, D-Y-E-R, so somebody who dyes cloth, the creative person. And then my last name is Gill, G-I-L-L. So to me, that's a connector, like, it's breath, right? It's life. It's a connection between spirit. So I'm like, I had to watch my name to find context in a context that I did not make sense in. I was drawn to CCLD because I actually have known Aditi Brown since college. And she and I have been talking about death and dying and the respect of care that should be involved in that process. And I remember us actually writing our theses at the same time. And that was what she crafted her thesis around. And the conversations began there, and it's been really amazing to watch that unfold over the course of the years. And so I was drawn to CCLD before it was a seed. The beginning before the beginning. What makes Aditi so special? Her quality. The quality of her work, the quality of her care, the tenderness with which she arrives at a knowing, and her willingness to explore that. And I say that having known her for 20 years at this point, and watching that, also the evolution of that, and the integrity with which she enters space. Conversations around death are extremely important, because part of the work that I do is around and involves ancestral healing and working with the wounds in the bloodlines far back beyond just our most recent ancestors. And to me, there's been, or in many situations, there's been so much trauma in those lines that finding a way to heal that in community through conversation, through a careful engagement with each other is really important. And it's what I do feel like there's a really powerful, I want to say tool, that's the word that I'm kind of feeling, that lives inside of your bloodline, that lives inside of you as a carrier of that. And to me, one of the most powerful things that we can do for our own health and healing and our ancestry is to work with those things that, the wound. And then in that wound to find the medicine that we carry. And I really love, I think it's actually now the name of a children's book, but like, we are the dreams of our ancestors. And in the cleanest and clearest way, because somewhere in the heart of where we began, there was a dream for what the line could become without, stretching far beyond time itself. And I like to believe I do believe inherently that is true, because we all came from the earth. We all have a shared ancestor of the earth itself. In my opinion, the earth has an evolutionary goal for itself, which to me bubbles up inside the body and through the blood, and is carried through the blood as a lineage. Dare I say, maybe one of the greatest missions of your life is to hold that and to mirror that for others in a way that gives them permission to do so, especially as a filmmaker yourself, especially as one who works with people, and literally you see people. You care for them in kindness, you give them, and you create a space for them to actually enter into a sense of stillness and reflection. I got into being a expressive arts healer. I'm now an initiated West African shaman. I, within that, am considered an elder and a diviner, and to me that also stretches back into deep ancestral healing and deep ancestral work. I work with energy medicine, Reiki master, but to me it goes beyond that, and it's about working with the energies of the world, the planet itself, those energies that are alive within people and ready to transform, because that's what we're always doing. We're always being invited into transformation, metamorphosis, evolution. I'm also an end-of-life doula, ecotherapy practitioner. So all of that comes into the work that I do based on the moment, based on the person, based on the needs, and also based on the soul's permission and desire to move into the next step for an individual or their community. I got into my work because I had no choice. It was something that lived inside of me, and my father passed right when I was 20, or actually right when I was 21, and it blew me open. I was having all sorts of other side experiences, and I really had no choice but to enter into that, because it became this overwhelming day-to-day experience of being between worlds, and I needed to make sense of it because I had to. It was the only way I was going to stay alive. So I started exploring various routes of healing and personal intuition, and trying to bridge that gap of being told you need to take medication, and I said no because I can't feel anything in my body. And I had a feeling or a sense that my body was going to be the thing that would help guide me into the next stage of who I was, because for so long the body had been really scary and traumatized. And so it was necessity, because I knew that I literally knew that I would die if I didn't. I found my way to death through a lot of internal deaths, a willingness to dive really into the darkness inside of my interior, into who I thought I was, to break that apart, to go beyond that, which to me is a very death-like experience. I've also had a number of near-death experiences, shark encounters, a recent one where I got pulled into a river in a ritual ceremony in Costa Rica and had to escape out of the rental car I was in. And that led to a whole bunch of epiphanies, but actual almost deaths. And having had my father die, when I was 21, I guess, right when I had turned 21, it gave me a pathway into exploring the darkness, essentially. And I think there's a lot of an idea of death being darkness. And to me, that's part of what my work has become, is about encouraging others to consider that there's another way to see it, to experience, to live it every day, and to be willing to actually have a life that we feel present to, proud of, alive in, because death is here with us at all times. Death wants to enter the conversation. I feel it is a formless knowing that lives in every single thing, every organic piece of matter on the planet. And to me, it needs to be up. It needs to be lifted up so that there is, like, it's a complex thing, because it feels like it wants to be seen, it wants to be known, it wants to be experienced, it wants to be invited to the table, and it wants to be uplifted, to help us understand that instead of it being scary and terrifying, it can be a way to bring things together. Because you look at nature, and things naturally die off, and then they get composted, and then they become beautiful, new, fresh life that has more of an experience of itself, knowing that it actually, how do I say it? It's like the earth knows how to grow better and better. So if we give ourselves permission to talk about death, and to find helpful and creative, oftentimes, or safe ways to engage with the idea of death, writing, poetry, art making, energy medicine, however it's just all these ways that we can find and have access to our own knowing, and thus to our own inner deaths and our larger deaths, then we can start engaging with each other in a way that's more honest and more true and more vulnerable. And out of that, I think, comes true community, becomes true evolution. I know I keep saying that, but to me it's really honest. Like, it feels so, it's what the world wants in general. I think we all, there's a form of madness that lives in all of us right now, and a psychological torture, and a grieving process that very few people have engaged in, because these conversations have left the table, because there's no space for them. Like, people say, don't bring up, religion and politics at the table. It's like, well, then don't bring up death. Like, that's the one that lives in the corner, right? Has been shunned for so long, that has been removed out of Western society and culture because it lived at the heart of many ancestral and indigenous and earth-based communities, because it was part of life. So to me, it's essential that we start engaging with it more in safe and healthy and community-based ways, so that we don't feel so isolated, because that's actually what I think is really at the heart of so much of the Western breakdown, like Western social breakdown, is this feeling that we are all separated, and we're trying so desperately to come back together, but because we haven't had a true interaction with how to do that, or it hasn't been modeled to us in a way that's oftentimes it's been unhealthy. So we're looking for healthy, safe models to engage again around truthful things that really matter to us, that feel scary and terrifying. And until we can start having those conversations in safe ways and in safe places, then we won't truly know ourselves or each other.
I am remembering who we are.